Hello, everybody. Stephanie here. Greetings. Greetings from LifeSpring Yoga Studio. I am taking up residence right now in our training room. I was going to come live to you from our beautiful practice space, and I forgot that there was a private session going on, so I didn't want to missed the opportunity to come live, and I thought, oh well, what you plan, and God laughs, and what a beautiful place to come to live from. I would take you all around all this beautiful teachings and the beautiful, colorful posters that Emily has made, and all of the wisdom that she's imparting to us in our teacher training. And so this is a very special place for those of us who are in teacher training this time, because the studio is new this time around for the teacher training. So we'll be the first group of students to get certified in this space. So it is. Once I got in here and saw it wasn't what I had planned, but it was absolutely perfect for today's vlog. So how's everybody doing? I've had a lot of feedback. I am so grateful for you guys, and yesterday was extremely obviously, if you watched, was difficult for me, and but that's it. It's like I've always been transparent and real and authentic, and again, perhaps in those very raw moments I may have hidden, perhaps, or again, hidden behind words. It was a lot easier to be real and raw when I'm writing. And hey Kathy, I miss your face, Kathy. But at the same time, I do realize that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I wasn't sure how yesterday went, and I really tried not to sit in judgment of myself or what it was, because I was just being obedient to what I felt like I was being called to do, and it wasn't how I wanted it to go, and it was completely unscripted, and again, very raw. And anyway, the feedback has been very inspiring and encouraging, so thank you guys, really, honestly, because I was like, I totally, again, was fish out of water, because it's been a while since I've done this, since I've gone live with you guys, and then to completely be unscripted and not have an outline in front of me of the things that I wanted to talk about and all of those things. Anyway, it was very encouraging. So again, thank you all. It really has made my day, and especially my friend Cliff this morning in class. Thank you so much, because I really couldn't express to you, and I'm not going to right now either, because I'll get all emotional again. And not that that's a bad thing, to express emotions, and I don't know why. And you would think, for me as a former counselor, as a therapist, somebody who walks people through the holistic training process, I'm constantly, and those of you who've been with me, tears are so cathartic. They're so, oh, there it is. Okay. We might have some technical difficulties in here. I didn't think about that. And then for me, and again, I guess it's just because it's very vulnerable, and especially because what I'm going through is very difficult and extremely personal, that I don't know. We'll just see. And again, I don't tend to, and it's not in my DNA to filter much or to put on airs. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is relationships. And so, when we come into this world, and I think we're all created in love to love, and along the journey we have a plethora of relationships. I mean, from the time we're born with our parents and our grandparents and family, and to the time that we become friends, and then we have friends that are family, and work relationships, and acquaintances, and whatever, community relationships, and we're bombarded with them, and sometimes that can be very stressful, but at the same time, that is the purpose of why we are here, is to cultivate these relationships. So in our house, we've always said REALationship, REAL. So some people, you'll see me spell it, or see it in blogs, or see it as a hashtag, and they're like, some people might be like, she totally spelled that wrong, but it's not. It's REALationship, because that's what we strive for, is to have realness and, not just my husband and I in our marriage, but the kids and our relationships with them, the family members that we're still involved with, and the community. And if you know me, you have probably experienced that. I don't do pleasantries very well. I may ask, how are you doing? And then I'll ask, how are you doing? And I've been told that more than one occasion that that's always the second time that people are like, oh, she really wants me to be honest. So, and I don't expect anything from others that I'm not going to give, and I'm always going to be honest. And that's where I'm at right now, is difficulty in the relationship and in the marriage. And for anybody who is married and has been along with this journey with me and in the blog and all of that, we share very often. And if you've sat in the spiritual congregation, Neil's very open about that. Maybe not to the extent that I am, but about the difficulties, because we tell this to our kids all the time, that marriage is going to be the most difficult relationship that you ever have and cultivate and attempt to continue. And this is why divorce rates are so high. And it's a difficult thing. And so I still have somebody messaging me. Thank you. It is what it is. And I say that without being flippant, because if I tune into it, it's very heartbreaking. But at the same time, I can really tuning in to not just the feelings, but a deeper layer of, this is part of the process. And so, does it make it easy? No. And what happens for you guys in relationships, I'm sure you've experienced it as well, that you maybe go in two different directions, or there is what is the word that I'm looking for? I want to say betrayal, but sometimes what one person sees as betrayal may not be seen as from the other person. Again, perspective. All of these things, and it makes relationships difficult. And I'm no stranger to difficult relationships. And so, again, you can go back and read a lot of my history without me having to get into it over and over again. I mean, I grew up in difficult relationships, and that's being very kind. That's where I began to develop the theory that there are the difference between, most families are dysfunctional in some way, and there's dysfunction with a capital F-U-N, which is interesting because Uncle Bob is very strange, do you know what I mean? And he's very peculiar, and he makes you laugh and whatever. And then there's dysfunction where it's not so funny, and then there is that line that gets crossed when it comes into toxic relationships. And that happens, again, not just in families, but all relationships. And it's being able to identify what that is. And the way that you do that is how it affects you personally. And yes, you do make sacrifices in relationships, but when it's constantly, if it's sacrificing who you truly are and becoming who you're meant to be, then that's something that toxic things have to be cut off. And if not, it toxifies everything. And those decisions are difficult to make. So I'm no stranger to difficult relationships, and which is why it's just, and I'm no stranger to heartbreak when it comes to my marriage, which is what makes this situation a little more challenging for me, is why it feels that way. And again, let's go back to those many layers, and I'm sure I could look around here really quickly. Isn't that funny? It's right behind me, of the koshas, which is something that I have learned in this teacher training, which is really helping me. So, I have developed a series of workshops that I'm working on, oils and auras, that has to do with the koshas. And so a lot of, I look at it from that context. So, you have all these different layers in your life, the physical layer, the energy layer, the emotional layer, the cognitive layer, the spiritual layer, and then the biggest self, which is that golden thread that connects us all to God and runs through all of us. So it's a very short and dirty version of the koshas. But what I'm saying is, if I can get stuck, it's so funny that I'm sitting right here because I could really just teach it from this place, but I could get stuck in that emotional layer, which tends to be, it's the one right in the middle. It's the one between, it's directly, so there's 5. It's between the physical and the big S self, or God, or whatever you call that. And so it's funny that I tell you guys, you've heard me say this a million times, especially my oilers, that I truly believe that most physical manifestations have an emotional root, that when we don't deal with our feelings and the things that we're going through, it will manifest its way out somehow. Toxicity will make its way out somehow. So it isn't just impinging on the physical. I'm saying that it impinges on the spiritual as well. So Neil always taught about God goggles, about put your God goggles on. And so that's what I'm saying, is that like I can get into that heartbreak and be in that place where I'm just like, I don't know how we move forward from here. I cannot foresee, and this is the truth, and I cannot foresee resolution at this point. But when I step back into a deeper layer and I put on those God goggles, I see that this is the process. And so we all go through this journey of life, and we all go through different, again, we grow in different layers and different realms and evolve in different areas of our lives. There's no set protocol. There's not a blueprint. Each of us go through things differently, and the importance of having somebody in your life outside of your immediate relationships, and it can even be a friend, somebody to go through this with that can help you process and go through it. And that's what we offer with the refinery, is holistic training. It's just somebody to partner with you as you walk through this journey. And it's not something that, and that person may change from time to time as you grow, and you're going to attract what you need. They always, there's that saying that when the student is ready, the teacher, they'll find the teacher will come. So that kind of emulates in life. You'll see that. But so when I put the God goggles on and I see that this is a process, and we've both grown, and I'm not saying away from each other, finding our true selves, and it's very difficult when you start to find your true selves. And and again, I know this is that when one person begins to change in a relationship, it might just seem like a raindrop in the ocean, but even that one drop reverberates, can cause a monsoon on the other side. Do you know what I mean? And so I'm quite aware of these things, but does it make the experience easy? Absolutely not. And so I'm not the only one out there going through this. And the more I've shared about this, the more people who have been honest about it. And even this morning in class, I had a new person, and I'm not going to call them out by name. I had a new person attend class this morning, and they openly shared with me at the end, because we do a little meditation towards the end, and a discernment reading. So like, it's not something that's planned reading. It's just open the book and read. And I knew it was particular to one person that was sitting there, because I know what they're going through, and I know it was for me as well. But what I didn't realize was it was for this person. When they left, they told me that they've been going through some challenges in their relationship, and possibly going through divorce, and what they were saying. And I was like, you don't have to, she was starting to get emotional, and I thought, you don't have to explain anymore, because all of us whom have a significant other, we've all been in this position at some point, what we call the impasse. And so we always say, your vibe attracts your tribe. And so I see that time and time again at this point. And we could all commiserate in the negative parts of this process, which would tear the relationships apart. And I'm not saying that I haven't been in that place, as at times, but thankfully, those that surround me are not going through that same place at that same time. So and yesterday, my own words were, again, once again, this happens quite often, used at me. I want to say against me, but it wasn't to be against me, but it was a reminder of when I was at this place, you said this to me, and, it holds true to me now. It didn't in that moment because it didn't feel like that. But when she said this to me yesterday, my friend, and I was like, I really don't like you, but she's right. Do you know what I mean? And it was that conversation that propelled me to go live yesterday, is because you can't just look. There's sometimes that you're going to be asked to sit in whatever you're going through, and that's not a bad place, and it's not to stay there, but it's to we learned this during our meditation, and I can't. Her name's escaping me right now, but that. When we're going through these extreme emotions, to sit in them and to not dwell on what was causing them, but to experience the feeling in every cell of the body, integrate it into every cell of the body, allow it to, because every emotion has an energy, to infiltrate everything and then to leave, to release. And that's really difficult to do. We don't even do that in the positive emotions. We don't stay happy enough because we're always looking for the next shoe to drop. But so every step of this journey, I have been given another tool to use. And who am I to hold all of these tools and not share them with you guys, right? I mean, that's again, when I find something I love, I'm going to share it with you guys. And as far as that emotional toolbox, and it's really not an emotional toolbox, it's a holistic toolbox. It's pulling from every one of those 5 layers of us, each individual, and then collectively, to be able to get through the experiences that we have at hand and the process to grow. And so I was really thinking about those, when I knew that it was time to cut ties from one part of my family. It was not an easy decision. And the day that I drove off, knowing that may be the last time that I was at this particular person's house, Jacob said to me, my oldest said to me that day, he said, Mom, I learned about trees today. And I was like, oh, and I love trees. And I was like, really? And he's like, I learned about seeds. And I was like, well, tell me about it. And so he told me about this, about windblown seeds. And he said, a tree will release a windblown seed and the wind will carry it, and then it will plant into the earth and it will make another tree. And he looked at me seriously in the eye and he said, Mom, you're a windblown seed. And where was I going with this? Talking about the seeds. So I always think about that seed, and that seed, when the wind carried it and it put it, and it may just seem random to us, but, all of creation is orchestrated beautifully by the great conductor, and that seed is planted, and, who knows when, but I think about it in this season that we're physically going through on the earth, but and especially here in West Virginia, where it's still winter is clinging with all of its might. But that seed, goes into the ground and it lies dormant through the winter, and it's like nothing is happening, and it looks like death. There's no life on, there's no leaves on the trees, there's no sprouting happening in that seed, and then, the season comes for it to come out of its seed, and that's not I said this yesterday, it's not easy and it's not pretty. I mean, you think about it, it's extremely violent for that life to come forth out of that seed. It's going to be painful. And it goes back to what I was saying yesterday about that Rumi quote about that the heart has to break over and over again till it breaks open. The seed as well. So, I don't know. The season, the seed, these things that are sprouting forward, it's not an easy process. And everybody is going through different things in their life right now. The whole variety of life. I mean, all of life's experiences. And that's how we can look at it, is like, so I say this at the end of every class, and I probably will end every class like this for the rest of my I don't want to say career, but my life as a yoga teacher. But we do a lotus pod where we ball up on our back and then we release a little bit, and then we ball up again a little tighter and release a little more, and the third time we ball up everything, eyes clenched, jaws clenched, teeth jaws clenched, toes engaged, everything's engaged, and then we release with an exhale of breath into Shavasana. And it's what I tell them all the time, and this is the same thing. It came to me. Miss Jana taught this in a Pilates, yoga Pilates class. I forget what it's called, at the Leaf when I was there, and I just lay there in tears for quite a while afterwards, because that last time, and I released into Shavasana, I realized I had lived my entire life in that ball, in that false security of control and protection. And so I remind this to my students every time, is that when we release into that we live most of our lives balled up into that pod, but we don't truly live until we bloom. And so I guess that's what's happening. So we talked about this, and it's just all coming to me as I'm sitting here. Maybe one of the last times that I went live is that we're going through this season, this winter, and the ground is being prepared, and the cultivation is happening, and it doesn't feel good because everything's being unearthed and squeezed into a million little pieces so that we can look at and get rid of what no longer serves, because the seeds are being planted. Well, guess what, guys? The seeds are now blooming. So there it is. Enlightenment for me as well as I sit here in this enlightened space. So I hope that clarifies some things. And, I know, because somebody was concerned about my health. And so, I mean, yeah, I'm sure that there are areas of my health that I need to work on, but no, there's nothing terrible going on. And I apologize that I was a little vague yesterday about what I was going through. So no fears as well, as far as I know. And I'm not even claiming that there would ever, never, anyway, I'm not even speaking such things over my life, but no, it's just, not just the relationship is suffering. And so, again, we'll go back to that. If you're in have a relationship with a significant other and there are children involved, when the main relationship is suffering, they all suffer. So it's kind of back to, I'm not going to relate it to toxicity, but just sickness in general, or part of the tree. And we don't want to have to. This is a tree that's not being cut off, and there's not toxicity. It's just growth right now, and it is painful. And it's like, look at that. This is a positive situation that's occurring for all of us, but yet in the present time, in this moment, it is not pleasurable, and it's really difficult to see what the outcome is. So I gave myself a little hope there as I said that. So I hope that gives you a little hope in what you're going through. So we'll talk more about it. So we are a week from a year of yoga today, and it was really exciting. This is my first class back in the studio as the teacher, and so it was good to see my gang this morning and be with them in this space, and what we all bring together collectively. It's a beautiful thing. But when I was like I said, I had one of them talk to me about the blog yesterday, and I said, yeah, because next Tuesday's a year of yoga, and so I teach on Tuesday mornings, and so I guess we'll have a little bit of a celebration next Tuesday. So if you want to join me next Tuesday morning here at Life Spring at 8:30, I would love, if you've been following the beauty of, somebody's calling me, the beauty of yoga, or want to see what all of this stuff is about. Anyway, I encourage you to come and join me next Tuesday at 8:30. I would love to see you. What a special day. And we're going to talk about this for the whole next week, about the year of yoga, and not just about yoga, but the journey of. And so remember that yoga is a journey, I'm reading it, of the self, through the self, and to the self. And Joe Neenan, one of my faves, he always constantly is reminding us of the yoga journey, but it really is life's journey. And yeah, it's good stuff. So I had no idea where we were going today, but this is where we went. So I hope you find some enlightenment in that. So I'm going to end there. And with that, much, much love to you all. Legs out.